Women of Divine Destiny Initiative's Talk That Talk. My name is Delmargo Gwim, and I'm so excited to be with you on today's edition of the program. This is a special edition to every youth listening to us and watching us right now. We are celebrating the International Youth Day in a special way. And today in the studios, we have great people, young people, Nigerians, that will be speaking for the young people in Nigeria and, of course, in Africa. We would like to appreciate the executive producer of the program and, of course, the founder of Women of Divine Destiny Initiative WODDI, Her Excellency Zinaria Nyoma-Nkechi Rogers-Okorocha, PhD, for this opportunity. And would like to say thank you for giving the youth a voice. Today in the studio, I would like to introduce our guests. And I'm sure you might be wondering what we will be talking about. Youth inclusiveness in nation building. How have we gone as Nigeria? How far as Africans? We will be looking at all of that and much more on the program today. We have in the studio Comrade Haruna Braimo. Thank you so much for coming, sir. And of course, we have Barrister Ijeoma Igboanusi. I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you so much for coming, ma'am.
Thank you.
And of course, we have in the studio the vibrant, permit me to add that, and always on point, Her Excellency, Mrs. Uloma Omosu. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And of course, we have in the studio Mr. Aham Rogers. Thank you for coming. Now, I would like to start it this way. When we talk about inclusiveness or inclusion, it means that somebody was either sidelined or somebody was not included in something, and then the person needs to be part of that thing. Now, looking at the youth in Nigeria, let's start with home. Have we been included in nation building? Have we been included? Let's start with Mr. Aham.
Well, I think, just like you said, the title already sort of explains the problem, that there's a gap somewhere. I think, yes, there's a serious disparity or a missing gap somewhere in terms of the youth's role in nation building, in the growth of a nation. And I think, there's a definite lack there. And I guess that's what we're here to sort of discuss, to see how we can actually sort of prefer solutions and to discuss that, because any country that doesn't think of or include the youth in the nation building process, the question, I guess the overall arcane question there would be, who is the nation supposed to be for in the future? So I think the say of the youths, the say of the young people is of paramount importance in nation building.
So let me ask Mrs. Mosu, what are we actually building? When we say nation building, what are we building?
I think we're building who we are as a people, what we represent, what we stand for, where the nation is supposed to be as a people. And like he's just said, if we're not able to include the youth, but then again, what are we including in the first place? So it's important to recognize what youth inclusiveness means and how do you get the youth involved. And most importantly, it would start with empowerment. There are different kinds of empowerment. And one of the ways to further grow a nation, first is by figuring out the identity of the nation. And so what's the identity of our nation? And if we're able to figure that out, then we'll give our youth an identity. And that's how we begin to include them by our culture. Culture plays a big role in nation building. How have we fostered our culture in the process of nation building, and so many other things.
Let me ask Barrister Ijeoma, you see young people, it's news, it's big news if Nigerian youth is traveling abroad. Like everybody, or even if the person travels and returns, everybody wants to identify with them. Everybody wants to leave. Is there anything that the country is not doing right with the young people that they would prefer, to identify with a particular culture, with a particular people? What are we not doing right?
Well, thank you so much. A whole lot. Nigeria, I would say, as a growing country, we've not really done well with our youth. In the area of education, you can find out that today the ASU is on strike. And with that, you will find out that somebody may want to travel abroad to complete that, because you have a child having 8 years to do an ABSc course and is not, graduating. Before you know it, he is caught up with NYC, what do you call it now? Limit to 8 years you can serve. And if the person doesn't serve, you may not really have a job. Sometimes they say if you don't have your NYC certificates on exemption, you may not really have a good job. So, in the area of education, not really done well as a country. And they don't have free medical services. Like Japan today, Japan is doing well, even with the war they had some time, and they still have their youth up to today, because they actually included them from day one as youth, because they are the future. And in democracy, you not allow them. The issue of not too young to run, I want to thank the House of Rep member then, Nwolo, and Senator Yako for that law. And I think about 31st May 2018, Mr. President signed it into law. But then, to what extent have they actually allowed our youth to be involved in the area of politics? So if you don't allow them you see them having the year and zeal to travel abroad. So I think as Nigeria as a government, to involve our youth in whatever they are doing, so that they can put in through tax they pay, and it goes back to the system.
Now, I'm going to ask a comrade something, and I want, let's just be realistic. She mentioned the issue of the Not Too Young to Run bill. And from 35 years of the age limit for House of Reps, it was now reduced to 30. Presidency from 40 to 30 as well. Okay, for House of Reps, it's actually 30 to 25. Now, if you have a 25-year-old around you now, I just want you to imagine, do you think that 25-year-old around you now, or that 30-year-old around you now, could be a senator or a governor or a House of Reps?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I would want us to take this issue from the basics. Everything has been said here so far is very correct, but there's a missing link between duties, responsibility, and rights as far as the Nigerian youth is concerned. And by extension, youth world over. It's International Youth Day. And today we have about 6.something billion youth across the globe, and we have like 6.something billion population of the world, or around 7 billion. We have about 3.5 billion youths. And in the Nigeria demographs, as released by International Population Research effort made, we have 53% of Nigerians that are youths right now. And I'm talking of from year one, not just youth by 30 years or 25 years. And among those 53%, between age 1 and 14, 15, they constitute 23% inside the 53%. You understand? And we have dependent relative and the active population less than 20% are supposed to drive the entire system. Now talking about how do we include, there's a huge responsibility now on how to first of all inculcate leadership responsibility ideas in that 25% that constitute between 1 to 14 age, 1 year to 14 years old. At 14, that is where the awareness should begin to drive. What is their responsibility? I'm talking of civic responsibility. What are they expected to contribute to the system as a citizen? What is their identity, as mentioned by Her Excellency? Give them that identity, let them know this. These are all our responsibility also to let them know. So that when they grow up, as they are growing, the youth inclusiveness efforts of the government, they will naturally key into it. The question of whether you are 25 or 30 will no longer come to play. In 1960, how old was Nnamdi Azikiwe? The Tafawa Balewa, the Awolowo was, what is his name? The man that led the first coup in Nigeria in 1966, after the defunct First Republic election issues. Uzegu was less than 30 years. Not about the coup, but about the fact that it needed a change. You understand? It takes some sense of awareness to be able to wake up, to drive such audacious, to make such audacious move. You understand? How old was, we're talking of, if Buhari was about 30-something years, around 34, 35, when he became military head of state. And Buhari, at this age, is still the president of Nigeria. You understand? You can imagine the gap. He still came back. He ruled Nigeria as a youth in his old age. He's still taking decisions in the future he may not be part of.
Are we really interested in the nation building, Mr. Rochas? Like, are we young people? Are we interested right now? What do you see?
That's why I think there's. I'm just hearing all the other speakers, give their thoughts on it. I think there's a massive disservice to the young people, actually. So there's seems like there's some, I know it's not deliberate effort, but there's some effort, it would look like, whether deliberate or not, to actually remove them from the table. Because actually, yes, there's a fantastic question you asked. You say that, would you close your eyes and picture a typical 25-year-old Nigerian or a 30-year-old Nigerian occupying a prominent place of power in the country? And it's a difficult, it's a difficult picture to paint. But then again, you might ask that same questions in the US, and names pop up like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and very young people in their 20s doing fantastic things and being leaders of significant movements. But the problem is, our youths in Nigeria have been denied that capacity. And like Barrister Ijoma was referring to there, if we're not able to actually train and actually empower them to actually understand the issues and to have a voice, then we've actually disenfranchised them from the table. And so it's hard to actually really fight for that when the people we're supposed to be fighting for, what's the capacity level. And just to add something, which was dropped in my mind as everyone was speaking, the youth of the country are the dreaming population. This is the only population that can actually that are well positioned to actually envision new worlds. You know what I mean? And then we see that in the policy. So when you it's like if a nation was a human being and you've gone to their brain and shut down the part that actually imagines, or actually dreams. That's 15 to 24 as the UN calls a youth, or 18 to, I believe it's 15 to 30 to 39 now by the Ministry of Sports Revision in 2019. Whatever that is, that's the age, that's the time that people actually dream of better worlds or dream of new things. So by the time you actually, clamp down on that ability to envision new worlds or envision progress, then what you have is a conservative Nigeria that's constantly trying to keep things in the status quo. Because like he aptly puts it, most of the people making decisions are not going to live in the world that they're creating, and then we're stuck at the background trying to, we're going to inherit a world that we had no part of. So with the people in government now, what are the concerns about climate change? I mean, I'm going to deal with it in the next 30 years, but a lot of people in power, in 40 years, they most likely will all not be here. About 80% of the people in the government. So they're not going to meet that world. So if they are building roads that are substandard, or rails or whatever it is, or airports that won't function past 30 years, we're going to inherit that. So there's actually a disenfranchisement of the Nigerian youth.
Talking about disenfranchisement, are we being trusted by even our own selves, the youth? We will take a short break. It is still Talk That Talk on the WODDI channel. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Talk That Talk on the WODDI channel. And of course, we've been talking about youth inclusiveness in nation building in commemoration of the International Youth Day. It's a special edition of the program. And if you are just joining, you're not too late. We have a whole lot more to learn and to enjoy, of course, to pick home after this program. So I was asking a question. I would like to talk to Mrs. Nwosu. Do the youth trust themselves when it comes to youth inclusiveness? Let me narrow it down to leadership, which is one major part of nation building. Mm-hmm. Do you see the youth trusting themselves?
To be honest, I was just going to pick up from what he was saying. I disagree strongly that it solely relies on our leaders or the government to include or ensure youth inclusiveness in nation building. you did ask the right question.